All right, y'all. First and foremost, give all praise to Yahweh Shem Yahweh Barakatham. That's the Most High God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and his son Hamashiach Yahweh or Yeshua, or who the world knows is Jesus Christ. All right. All praises given unto him. Okay. I seen this video with Brother Berean. Fair use. We're gonna go over this video. Man, even just the title of the video. The title of the video was what does Israel have to offer the church? All right. What's the importance of Israel? Now, Israel, we know, and this brother knows the answer. He knows Israel's in that book over 1,000 times. He knows the importance of Israel. It was one point in the video where I said, I said to him, I was like, I commented and listen, I ain't never donated to no channel to be 100. I don't even know how to do that really but but a lot of times, a lot of these channels, they not gonna put your comment up unless you said something that's cutting them a little bit, or you donate. And so for him to respond to it, I know it hit somewhere. I don't know where it hit, but it hit somewhere. And he was like, well, I was like, well, why do the white church, I ain't say that. I said, why do the church donate so much money unto Israel? Why do they donate if Israel it doesn't really matter who they are, and they're not relevant today in this dispensation? Why is the Christian church sending the Jews, who they consider the Jews, why are they sending them so much money? What is the purpose of them sending them money? And he went on a rant. To say, well, that's the white church, and that's the white church doing that foolishness. Don't no black church do that. And it came off almost racist. Almost sound like you teaching hatred. Because my question was, why are they sending them money? Not a question of who's sending them money. I asked you, why are they sending them so much money? But brothers have to deflect. Let's look at this video real quick. Matter of fact, let's just hit Romans 15 too. Let's hit Romans 15 real quick. 15 and 27. I'm going to be reading from the NLT, brothers and sisters. We're going to be reading from the NLT on this one. Romans, because I want this thing to be plain. I want it to be plain for Israel also. Because these jokers, you swear y'all can read that darn KJV, man. Y'all can't read that thing, man. Y'all can't read it. Y'all don't read it enough. Romans 15:27. It said, it have pleased them. See, I went straight to KJV. I'll read in the KJV first, okay? It have pleased them verily, and their debtors they are. For if the Gentiles have been made partakers of their spiritual things, their duty is also to minister unto them in carnal things. When therefore I have performed this, I have sealed them this fruit. I will come by you into Spain. Okay, so once he gives them that what they are debtors to Israel because they are partaking in the spiritual blessings that belong to Israel. Let's read in NLT real quick so you can just see it a little clear, because that old English is rough. It says they were glad to do this because they feel they owe a real debt. Who is the they there? The they is the Gentiles. Because there was the church in Jerusalem needed some help financially. The other churches were willing to donate, the other Gentiles willing to donate these folks money. Who? Israel money, because they became partakers of their blessings. Verse 27. Watch this. They were glad to do this because they feel they owe a real debt to them Israel, since the Gentiles received the spiritual blessings of the good news from the believers in Jerusalem. Okay, since that good news came out of Jerusalem, since that gospel came out of, they owe What you mean what you owe Gentile? What you owe Israel? Why is it important for Israel? Since the Gentiles received the spiritual blessings of the good news from the believers in Jerusalem, they feel the least they can do in return is to help them financially. As soon as I have delivered this money and completed this good deed of theirs, I will come to see you on my way to Spain. And I am sure that when I come, Christ will richly bless our time together. Okay, so Paul is telling them, listen, man, the Gentiles were willing because they feel like they indebted because of the good news that came from Jerusalem. And that's good news is still being spread. What you mean? Why you don't? what can Israel offer? But let's go. Let's hear some of these videos. I clipped a few things. Let me see if this
read that and discern that for me.
Watch this here.
Romans 11.
Okay, how clearly agree with that, but you cannot sit up here and say that Paul has denied his nationality in scripture, and you can't say that. And okay, how would you discern Romans 11, 25 through 29? Then? Read that and discern that for me.
Romans 11, 25 through 21. All Israel be saved. Okay, well, there's like 4 major interpretations.
I want you to read it. Read it. Let's read it. Romans 11, 25 through 29.
All right, let's let the people check this out.
All right, while he pulling that up, come on, Watcher, you wanted to say something?
And look how Berean swoops on in there trying to save that brother. Swoops on in there trying to save that brother that's trying to say that Paul is denying his nationality in Romans 9 when he's saying that he's a darn Benjamite. He's a Hebrew of the Hebrews. And then don't go to Romans 8. You just go to Romans 8 and read 10 verses up to see why Paul is saying this. All right. Still wishing these folks can be saved, but they denied. Now he told this man to read Romans 11, 25 through 29. And as soon as he seen it, I said, it's 4 interpolations of this thing. It's 4 different interpolations. Brother, what's the discern? What do it mean, man? What does it mean? It's 4 interpolations. That's what I'm saying. Brothers be so smart, man. This brother been in seminary and theologian. I think he's still in theologian school, seminary school. And so he getting puffed up in there, man. Just read it. Brother. I forgot that brother name, man. Man, what's that brother name? I forget your name, brother. I doubt you see this, but I forget your name. Hold on, let me go here because he finna answer now.
Teaching, even though he teaching them some things about his own people.
See, and I think that's the part where you're sort of you're like equating terms that aren't exactly how it's meant. So here Paul is talking about Israel in a theological aspect, not a physical aspect. That's why he's saying a partial hardening is happening to Israel until the full number of the Gentiles come in. And so all Israel will be saved, just as it is written. That means he's showing that the Gentiles are coming in to become Israel, not about learning that your bloodline Israel. What? Israel to Paul is a theological construct, not a physical blood lineage.
Okay, bro.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Come on, to the Isaac.
Hey,
look at this joker. He's still not answering what Israel can do for the church. Look at Alton, another apologist. I guess he's an apologist / Calvinist or whatever. And they don't know what Israel's supposed to do for the church. No matter who Israel is, Israel has an important part. Even if I didn't consider myself Israel, I know it from reading that text that Israel plays an important part, and there's a debt that's owed to these people. And we just read it in Romans 15 for that good news coming out of Jerusalem, man. Them disciples, what you mean you don't owe? What can the church do? Come on, man. Y'all tripping. Y'all tripping. So let's read Romans 11. And this brother just sat here and just made something up, man. The brother was like, what? And when somebody say something just foolish, man, you only had no words. Brother didn't have no words. Just, okay, man. That's it. Okay. And then nobody else had no words. And that's one of the problems with the church is that there's no correction. Brother sat there and said something very foolish, something very incorrect, and there was no correction there. There was no rebuke. Therefore, that equates to there was no love. Because love ain't just holding somebody's hand and hugging them. Love is bringing correction, man. Love is bringing reproof. Not letting your brother just say something foolish like that. And teaching correct doctrine. If he say something wrong, you correct him. Where's the correction? Where's the love? You missing that fruit. And then brother be wanting, man, you know, I don't see they fruit. Man, you don't know them jokers out there teaching in them camps. You watching videos, man. Man, folks can be doing rapists. You can have rapists on that darn panel. You don't know them folks. And you don't know them folks that's out there teaching on the street corners. Get inside the body. Get inside the classes before you try to say something about them folks, man. It's the same thing for Israel. You don't know what's going on in that church, except what you see on the video. You can speak on that. You can't tell these folks, oh man, well, this folk ain't got this, da 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 da. But let's read Romans 11. And again, I said, you know, Romans 11. Let's read, man, we're going to start at 11 and 11. Again, I'm going to read from the NLT. But if the spirit make me jump over there to the NKJV, you know, we got to do what they got to do. But I'm over here. Romans 11 and 11. It said, did God's people stumble and fall beyond recovery? Of course not. They were disobedient. So God made salvation available to the Gentiles. Why was the salvation available to the Gentiles? Because God's people, his possession, his lot, the apple of his eye was disobedient. And so that opened up salvation to the who? To the Gentiles. But he wanted his own people to become jealous and claim it for themselves. Now, another reason, one of the main reasons, this is why you got to humble yourself. If you're saying you're not an Israelite and you're saying that you're a Gentile and you making videos to say something like, what do Israel have for the, you need to humble yourself. And this is what we read, man, in Romans 11. You can't boast against the natural branches being a wild olive tree that's grafted in. What you mean, what you don't, what you owe Israel, or what can Israel bring to the church? I don't care who you think Israel is. That's foolish, man. Y'all crazy. Romans 11, where we at? Romans 11 and 12. Now, if the Gentiles, watch this now, because this Romans 11 is heavy. Now, if the Gentiles were enriched because the people of Israel turned down God's offer to salvation, think how much greater a blessing the world would share when they finally accept it. Now, if you were given salvation because Israel rejected Christ, and that's when you were given it, when he died and when they rejected him and put it on, you didn't have it before then. That's why Christ said, Shalakia, the Matthew 15:24. I only come for the lost sheep of the house of Israel. He wasn't dealing with no Gentiles. Y'all got to stop that mess, man. It's because you turned down Christ. Oh, I forget that precept. Paul said when he went to the synagogue, because you have rejected Christ, lo, we turn to the Gentiles. He had to turn. It was never dealing with y'all, man, until then. How you puffed up? This thing wasn't for you till they turned it down. Whoever you consider Israel to be. Or tell me what this thing is really saying. Do a video, take this video and show us and break this thing down. Break that of Romans 11 down. Where we at, verse 13? Let's read that one more time. Now let's read verse 12 again. It says, now if the Gentiles were enriched because the people of Israel turned down God's offer of salvation, think how much greater a blessing the world would share when they finally accept it. That's why these folks are sending them money, man. I'm saying all this especially for you Gentiles. God has appointed me as the apostle to the Gentiles. I stress this, for I want somehow to make the people of Israel jealous of what you Gentiles have, so I might save some of them. So he's increasing his ministry so that he can save some of Israel by making them jealous of what the Gentiles have. And that's what's happening. You see Israel today. Man, Israel fight you up and down. No, there ain't no salvation for no Gentiles. No, they can't get in. I always use the example of a kid playing with a little toy. The kid don't want to play. The toy could be way across the room. Nobody, the little girl ain't thinking nothing about that doll. But let somebody come start playing with that doll. She run over there, start to take that doll. No, that's my doll. That's my God. But the reason these folks got in is because we turned it down. We wasn't playing with the doll. And so they was able to grab the doll. Now we got to share the doll. We got to play together with the doll. Verse 14. For I want somehow to make the people of Israel jealous of what the Gentiles have, so I might save some of them. For since their rejection meant that God offered salvation to the rest of the world, their acceptance will be even more wonderful. It will be life for those who were dead. And since Abraham and the other patriarchs were holy, their descendants will also be holy, just as the entire batch of dough is holy because of the portion given as an offering is holy. For if the roots of the tree are holy, the branches will be too. Verse 17, but some of these branches from Abraham's tree, some of the people of Israel have been broken off. And you Gentiles who were branches from a wild olive tree have been grafted in. So now you also receiving the blessing God has promised Abraham and his children, sharing in the rich nourishment from the root of God's special olive tree. But you must not brag about being grafted in to replace the branches that were broken off. You are just a branch. You're not a root. You're not getting the same nourishments. You were grafted in from a wild olive tree, you Gentiles. Do not come here boasting boasting against the natural branches. Talking about what can the natural branches do for those grafted in when you're sucking up the nutrients from the darn. Come on, y'all. And you Gentiles who were branches from a wild olive tree have been grafted in. So you also receiving the blessings of God as promised, God has promised Abraham and his children, sharing in the rich nourishment from the root of God's special olive tree. But you must not brag about being grafted in to replace the branches that were broken off. You are just a branch, not a root. Well, you may say those branches were broken off to make room for me. Yes, but remember, those branches were broken off because they didn't believe in Christ. And you are there because you do believe. So don't think highly of yourself, but fear what could happen. For if God did not spare the original branches, he won't spare you either. Behold, therefore, the goodness of the severity of God, and on them which fail severity, but toward, Shalaki, I went into the KJV. Where we was at, 19, verse... Now we have verse 23. Notice how God is both kind and severe. He is severe towards those who disobey, but kind to you if you continue to trust in his kindness. But if you stop trusting, you will also be cut off. And if the people of Israel turn from their unbelief, watch this now. And if the people of Israel turn from their unbelief, they will be grafted in again. For God has the power to graft them back into the tree. You by nature were a branch cut from a wild olive tree. So if God was willing to do something contrary to nature by grafting you into a cultivated tree, listen, he's done something special for you Gentiles, man. Contrary to nature. This tree wasn't for you to be in it. That's why you got to be humble. And my camera just got dark. It was right when the sun was going down. So I'm going to try to edit it and fix it. But, you know, it is what it is. So if God was willing to do something contrary to nature by grafting you into this cultivated tree, he will be far more eager to graft. He going to be far more eager. If the Most High grafted you, he went contrary to nature to graft Gentiles in, he's going to be watch what he say, far more eager. He's going to be even more eager to graft the original branches back into the tree where they belong. If he grafted you in, he going to be far more eager to draft those trees in that were broken off. We ain't the same. I want you to understand this mystery, dear brothers and sisters, so that you will not feel proud about yourselves. Some of the people of Israel have hard hearts. Understand that. Some of us have hard hearts, man. We're ignorant. We have been blinded to the fullness of the Gentiles come in. But don't boast against them original branches. They steal the apple of his eye. But this will last only until the full number of the Gentiles come to Christ. And so all Israel will be saved, as the scriptures say. The one who rescues will come from Jerusalem, and he will turn Israel away from ungodliness. And this is my covenant with them, that I will take away from their sins. Now notice, he's talking to Paul. The audience is mainly Gentiles. He's talking to Gentiles, telling them not to boast against the natural branches, and then giving them the text for you to remember that the Savior is coming out of Jerusalem to rescue Israel from unrighteousness. Far more eager. Far more eager. That good news came to you from that remnant coming out of Jerusalem. But he's going to do even a greater thing for Israel by sending Christ back to rescue us from unrighteousness. And he will turn Israel away from ungodliness. And this is my covenant with them, that I will take away their sins. Many of the people of Israel, verse 28, many of the people of Israel are now enemies of the good news. They enemies of the gospel of Christ. You got a lot of Torah only. You got a lot of Israel teaching identity. I get it. Teaching the skin doctrine. I get it. We're going to address that. Don't believe me. Yet they are still the people. Oh, Shalakia. Verse 28 again. Many other people of Israel are now enemies of the good news, and this benefits you Gentiles. This is beneficial for you. You having these lost Israelites. This is beneficial for you jokers, man. What are you talking about? You benefit from Israel being lost. Yet, this Paul now. This brother saying that trying to say Paul denying his identity. Come on now. Yet they are still the people he loves, because he chose their ancestors Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, sir. For God's gifts and his call can never be withdrawn. You can't take it. You can't take away them promises, man. Everything that was promised, all those covenantal promises from Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, those things got to come to pass. Brothers be reading and say, oh, well, no, they were just writing from an Old Testament standpoint. That's all how they knew how to write it. Those things, those prophecies are over with. No, they not. Those things got to be fulfilled. Those promises got to be fulfilled, says Paul. Where I'm at, y'all. Verse 30. Once you Gentiles were rebels against God, but when the people of Israel rebelled against him, God was merciful to you instead. You also was rebels against. Like, it only took once Israel did that door open up for you. You should be thanking Israel. Whoever you think Israel is, you should be thanking them. Now they are rebels. And God's mercy has come to you so that they too will share in God's mercy. For God has imprisoned everyone in disobedience so he can have mercy on everyone. Oh, how great are God's riches in wisdom and knowledge, how impossible it is for us to understand his decisions and his ways. For who can know the Lord's thoughts? Who knows enough to give him advice? And who has given him so much that he needs to pay it back? For everything comes from him and exists, his power, and is extended for his glory. All glory to him forever. Amen. Where in the world do you see something about some darn theologian and some Israel, and this is really the Gentiles being grafted into Israel and not they Israel? No, man. That is not what he's saying there. He's still showing you that Israel is still special to the Most High and that he's using you Gentiles. He's using you, those who consider themselves, he's using you to bring Israel back, to make Israel jealous. It's also in Romans 10. Where we at? Romans 10:19. Read 9, 10, and 11, man. You're going to get killed. It's going to cut you. Romans 10 and 19. Yeah, here we go. But I asked, did the people of Israel really understand? Yes, they did. For even in the time of Moses, God said, I will rouse your jealousy through people who are not even a nation. I will provoke you with anger through the foolish Gentiles. And later Isaiah spoke boldly for God, saying, I was found by people who were not looking for me. I showed myself to those who were not asking for me. But regarding Israel, God said, all day long I opened my arms to a disobedient and gainsaying people. Disobedient and rebellious people. I went to that KJV. I'm raised with that KJV. I'm embedded with it. It's in me. But you know, we do need to, you know, again, do comparative because I see a lot of us, we read things and we don't understand. When I teach class, I see we read things. Or sometimes I go over stuff and I'm like, yeah, that was kind of hard. Let me slow that down. Let me read that again. We miss commas, we miss periods, we miss question marks. So we reading it with the wrong tone. So it's always good to do comparative text. And look at other verses if you don't understand. Just don't read over stuff. But yeah, that was just to address that. Let's look at something else real quick if we have time.